Hi, everybody. As she said before, I'm Katie, and I am a digital marketing expert. Well, I like to call myself a professional nerd, more specifically. But I am actually kind of going to go against my industry tonight and discuss a little bit about how we're looking at your data, what information we're actually seeing, good and bad, companies who are doing this in a good way, companies who are kind of, I think, stepping over a moral line, and more importantly, what we can do to curve that, how we can communicate with the algorithm or the formula, or more importantly, protect our data, what profile settings, and I wish I could tell you tonight was as simple as pulling out your phone, hitting settings, hitting privacy, and then turning off the Big Brother feature. But we're living in a very new age for digital marketing. It's a whole new enterprise. Before this, it was just the consumer deciding or the company, the producers or lobbyists, people who are trying to get you to buy a product or an idea, deciding what you wanted to see most and putting it out there. And now we have consumer-driven content, which lends itself to consumer-driven pricing. And sometimes elections run amok. So whether or not you have Facebook or you're actively using Google, or if you have everything set to private, you are interacting with digital marketing and you're shaping the data policy that we're going to be looking at for the next 10 years. And that's very important for multiple reasons. Because first and foremost, not all data is bad data. Some of it can actually help you save money. As you'll see, Carrie was saying she was doing a lot of online couponing and using online forums and Facebook to connect with people in her community who are into that and wanting to get the best deals and having that maximize her profits. It's the same for if you're buying a car, shopping on Amazon, or really, as we're going forward, doing anything else. So the first question we want to address, though, is what is digital marketing? Because we're all aware of kind of feeling like we were talking about something or we were texting about something the week before and we see an ad on Facebook the next week for that product or something similar to it, and it kind of freaks us out. And we think that's digital marketing and that's people stealing my data. But really, there are two parts to digital marketing. There's the display aspect, which is going to be part one, that you interact with, and then there's where I come in my industry, and that's where all of the action really happens. So part one is a company or a distributor creates content, information, ads, trying to sell you something, and they get it out there, whether it's on your Facebook, whether they're doing paid AdWords on Google, or someone else has shared something they like. It doesn't always have to be paid for. But it gets to you, you see it, and you either decide you agree with that idea or you are okay with that price of the product, you think it's a good sale. And in most of our minds, we think that's it, that's where it ends. We either buy or we don't buy. We either agree or we don't agree. That's really part one. Part two is what I have started a company over, 616 Promotions, about a year ago, and where my passion comes from. And I didn't actually go to school for marketing. I never thought my job was going to be to sell stuff to people. I actually was a psychology major. I wanted to be a therapist and a counselor in college. And through that and realizing that I probably wasn't the best person to be a therapist, I got more involved with studies. And in psychological studies, we look at mass amounts of data. And that's how we get really accurate answers. And in digital marketing, after you look at an ad or you engage with it or you do or don't buy, we collect a lot of data on what you do online, what you might like, other things you look at, and how you interacted with our ads. And that really is a huge crossover for someone who was a psychological stat-focused major. Analytics are pretty much looking at huge case studies built on the ads and the displays you're seeing on Facebook or on Google, and they then determine in exchange when things are showing up, if a company succeeds or it doesn't, if they're going to be on the first search page or if you're going to have to click 4 or 5 search pages over to find that distributor, seller, or product that you're looking for, that website. After you interact with that, we get that data, and we use that through something called script codes, and that's what produces our analytics. And analytics are session-based tracking data, and the best way to understand that is that those focus on frequency. How often a button is being clicked on, how often a website is being looked at, or how long someone was on a web page while they were there. Did they look at one page and then leave? Did they go to another page, or did they end up clicking on the Buy Now button? That's analytics. And then we have another type of data that comes in, and that's called in-market research. If you could go one back, I think I did them out of order, I apologize, and we'll go to that next slide again in a second. And that's in-market research. And like with cholesterol, there's good and there's bad cholesterol. This is your bad data. This is the data that we're seeing influence elections. We're seeing influence the prices you're paying, where consumers and smaller companies are starting to be boxed out, because this is a big bidding game. And the way that works is every time you use a free or open source product like Facebook, or if you search something on Google, even if you don't have a Gmail account or a Google account, they assign that session and that user, that device, something called a tracking ID. And a tracking ID is a very, very smart script code. And it creates a profile on you specifically, and separate from analytics, it's cumulative on just you as an individual. And folks like Johnson & Johnson, Cox Media, with tons and tons of money, who can buy lots and lots of servers, accumulate this data. They exchange it with each other and match your tracking ads up, and then they do something called targeted or redirective marketing. And this is where they know what prices you've seen online. They know what you and other people like you are interested in, and what those people were willing to pay for that product. And they change how much they're offering you. Or they give you a discount if they think you're more likely to buy. But it restricts that free and the open nature of what this enterprise is becoming. And once again, it takes, I think if you, any video you want to do, I could sit here and tell you how to pull up your Twitter data, but you have access to it on your account, your Facebook and your Twitter data. And it's about anywhere, depending upon how long you've had an account, 46 to 75 pages of whether or not you like cars. If you like cars, what kind of cars do you like? How old are they generally? What colors do you look at? It can become quite specific. And that's where we all start to have this feeling like, I feel like I'm being watched. Those are those ads that make you where you're talking to your friend about something on the phone, and the next day you're seeing, you know, didn't have time to make dinner last night, and then I'm on my Facebook later and I see an ad for Hamburger Helper. And you're kind of suspicious, because that is going on. But it's going on at a much higher level. And it's important that we discern those two types of data, because when we become afraid and we have those fearful feelings about the first type and we just hide everything or block all of our trackable action, what generally we're better at doing is hiding ourselves from analytics, from small companies who are trying to understand what our engagement is and how to make themselves better. But we're still giving all of our data and all of our tracking information to the big guys. And they use that against you because they know you're afraid. When you hit terms and conditions on Facebook, once again, Twitter, any Instagram, you accept this tracking. You accept it going into all your other apps, your text messages, your documents. It's there, and it's happening. Now, one thing that right now policy you can do is go through and turn off or reset your tracking ID. Some people will allow you to turn it off because they're for the consumer. Other people will just allow you to reset it. And I recommend going in and doing that, and we'll get to I'll get ahead of myself, but basically there are practices to go through and turn that off and make sure that, or reset it. And that keeps the guys from up top with all the money from matching your tracking ID and manipulating your session or your engagement or what you're doing online to make more money. Or just to, show you different information. If they think you're more liberal, they're going to show you more liberal ads. If they think you're more Republican, and it drives a bipartisan consumer economic system. We talked about in-market research. That's our bad cholesterol. And we're going to go to what I specialize in, what my company does. And that is analytics, and this is benefits organic companies. Thanks to Google, analytics are free. You can take a really easy online course to figure out how to put them into a website you operate yourself, or to insert them into your Facebook, and then you can kind of accumulate those profiles that you own and you have analytics in, and look at a full picture of your reach online as a company. And what this allows us to do isn't to see what Carrie was doing on our Facebook page or what Carrie was doing on Google earlier today. It allows us to see what you all were doing on our Facebook page that day. And it gives us a general consensus, which is as effective as we need it to be. Reviews, comments, likes, shares, views, visits, and clicks. We formulate all these into data points and put them on charts, and it helps us decide if we're going to make more of one ad, if we're going to make more of one product, if we're going to sell something for more off next month, how much we can expect to make, how much we can expect to sell based upon how much you're clicking on a certain ad. These are things we do need to know, especially for small business owners, because they can't go pay Cox Advertising or Cox Media to, I think it's something like $20,000 to $25,000 for the in-market data that, Walmart or Target is doing every day, every second, every hour. They don't have the ability to even to look at all of that data in a chart because they can't house it. And these are the easiest things to turn off, is to make our profiles completely private, to only have our friends be able to see what we do. And while it's totally understandable not to want to see, have certain people in your family see certain pictures you post, when it extends to the point that we're nervous leaving reviews or interacting with businesses online, we're not hitting the guys where it hurts. We're giving them a huge hand. If we can just go one more on over, I'm going to say, so what do we do? So, other than just feeling afraid and saying, I'm either going to burn and smash every computer around me and never be within earshot of, I think, is that an Alexa or just a random mic right there? Again, or we just throw our hands up and we say, well, I'm dependent upon this service now, and I'm just going to let it have whatever data it needs because I want to use Facebook or I need to use Google. It's integrated into my life. We look at the types of data it's collecting, and we need to be conscious. Can get one more on down for the slide. Did he? One more. Can you get the next slide? I'm sorry. So content engagement is a big way. If you want to support your local businesses, it's great to tell your friends to come on down. It's great to go out there and eat. After you have a special experience there, after you've had a good experience with them, it's even more important to go online and leave them a review, especially in a town like Athens where people are Google-based deciding where they're going to purchase or eat or sleep. We want to keep these people who aren't able to pay for ad money on the first page of the search results. And by being engaged with their brand, being engaged with their website and their Facebook, we're letting Google and the powers that be know that this is what people want to see when they search for restaurants in Athens, or this is what people want to see when they search for bed and breakfasts or goat soap. That's what we want. And distributor, okay, sorry, so distributor engagement refers to the longevity of their cause, like how many posts have they been doing? How long have they been advertising their services? If they're posting on Facebook 3 times a day and they're getting 100 likes on each post, it's going to level out with someone who's posting 1 time a week and getting 15,000 likes because they're engaged with the community. And these algorithms change between Facebook, Google. It's dependent upon what they're trying to do for search results. But last is ad spend, and that's anybody. Sometimes you're having a big event, you're having a big sale, and you do a paid Facebook or sponsored Facebook ad, you'll see where it says. Or when you type in something on Google and the first 3 results are paid for. That's smaller spending. People are generally spending about anywhere from like 12 cents to $3 for you to click on that content. That's not the same as Cox Media coming in and looking at what you've been reading online for the next week, and then every time you're on Times showing you an ad for a car they want you to buy down the road. It's two very different things, but it all works through the same equation. And the great thing about that is right now with the way policy is that two of these three contributing factors to relevancy for businesses are controlled by you. They're controlled by what you look at, what you decide to spend your time shopping online, what websites you're using. That's what they're trying to see, because they want the next person who searches to have as an enriching of an experience on that website or through that search and find that thing they're looking for. Or if it's Facebook, they want you to stay on your news feed for like as many ever hours as they can get out of you a day. I think in America right now we're aging 4 to 6 hours online or on TV consuming information. In 2005, 85% of that was like TV usage still. It was kind of starting to come down. Now we're at 85, nearly 90% is people watching stuff on their phones, whereas TV's really taken this back seat. So if you like a business and you're always looking at their posts and you're glad to see them doing well, take that 2 extra seconds to be the nerd that just likes it or shares it once a month, because they can't see if you just thought good things about them. Thoughts and prayers don't really work for the algorithm. You have to be involved and be engaged, or else your racist great aunt is going to like and comment on a bunch of stuff, and that's going to decide what your news feed is for like the next 5 years, because you're not giving the algorithm anything. We can go on to the next ad. So responsible use. Engage and promote. Research. If you're buying something, great. Lowest price is great, but maybe make sure they're also an ethical company. You know, we have so much convenience having products shipped from us and being able to price compare 25 dealerships in 2 seconds. Maybe take that extra time and do a little bit of research into where that money's going. You know, invest it back. Is there a business that maybe is offering a comparable price and they're a better place to put your money? Follow, share, review. Once again, communicate back. Let people know that you're interacting with these products. And then we want to obviously limit the bad cholesterol or the bad data that we're contributing to Cox Media. And this is just some simple housekeeping. You can go on YouTube right now and type in how to remove my tracking ID or reset my tracking ID for Google, Facebook. And you'll find at least 50 videos on each of them. I'm going to share some links on this Meth Talk link or YouTube video as well. And I say do it just 4 times a year. They are collecting crazy amounts of data on you, but as long as you're resetting that tracking ID and you're not making any really major purchasing decisions, car, house, boat, something where people are more incentivized to spend money to get in touch with you, it's probably safe to say that you're gonna notice some price saving on Amazon and not as much price fluxing, and probably an uptake in how many like coupons and things you're offered online. If you are making a major purchase, I would say, unless you're consciously using your tracking ID to try to drive down the price of a product you're researching online, you want to clear your tracking ID online weekly or bi-weekly, depending upon what you're getting and how private you want your research to be. Because just as much as you want that upper hand when you go into the car dealership and you want to get the best price, they want to know what prices you've seen, and they want that upper hand. And I actually got my start in the car industry. And at the end of the month, I could go through a list of 150 people who bought, and I could tell you what articles they were reading online before they decided to purchase my cars. And you know, that's a little bit of a bigger player, and that made me feel uncomfortable, and it's that feeling that guides this policy, because right now that's completely legal, and the only thing that stops it is maintaining your data. And then the fun part of it is hacking back, is understanding that they're looking at what you're doing and using that to signify that you are a different kind of customer than maybe you are. So say you went online and you saw something you wanted to order immediately. It was within your price range. You've done your little research. You've maybe shopped around a bit, and you're happy that day with it. Wait 2 weeks. Go back to that site. Go back to their competitor's site. Give them an email and click around. And depending upon what you're buying, I would say 40% of businesses at this point have price flex. So they know you're less likely to buy in general unless you get some sort of discount. So they actually, on Amazon, can set, based upon how many times you viewed a product over a certain amount of time, the price they're going to show you. So you can get something for a lot cheaper than someone else if you've been kind of peeking at it for 2 months. So sometimes patience really plays a part in that, and being aware that they want to sell to you and they're still making a profit. So you can communicate that maybe I'm not quite sold yet. It's kind of digital haggling. Email interaction. Email campaigns are really annoying. I think we get about 500 emails in our inbox a day. If you've ever given like one business your email ever, especially coming from the car industry, I'll say we are the worst. We were the worst. We're going to send, I think, 6 emails a day, and I'm telling people as the marketing director there, go, 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 send more. Unroll Me is a great service to get rid of some of the things you have absolutely no interest in being in your thing. It'll look at all of them, and you can unsubscribe all at once. But I do recommend just going through and sometimes clicking in and interacting, because once again, if you are in the market for something in the next 6 months, that's going to put you on their radar. And it's going to let them know, oh, I'm price hunting, and maybe I'm looking at your consumers, and they can start becoming more competitive on their price flexing for you. I think I have covered all of my stuff. Do you guys have any questions for me, more about specifically what data points are being taken, or the difference between organic and in-market research? I know I kind of went quickly over it, and I spent a lot of time in the industry, so I use vocabulary that's a little funky. What's up? So, yes and no. They are recording you. If you've given voice recognition or microphone permissions to an app, Google's probably the biggest one, because they're our forerunners right now for voice recognition and AI development. They are recording every word you say, but they're not getting to sit in a room later, and I've helped Google develop some of these codes. They're not sitting in a room later looking at the transcripts of the argument you and your husband had like last week, or you and your sister had over the phone. Well, and that's how I would feel, because it's usually when you're having a very exasperated conversation that sticks in your mind that you remember the ad later. What I'll tell you is, if you feel that correlation, to then be reminded that there are probably 20 instances where that was used and you didn't even notice because you didn't remember that you had said that. But more importantly, they're not looking at the transcripts. They're maybe using keywords to home in on your tracking ID and add that to your tracking profile. But the majority of that data is being used for research and development. So Google gives access to 200,000 recordings of the word the. And then a programmer uses those 200,000 recordings of the word the to help their AI understand that someone is saying the every time they say the. Depending upon if you're from the South or from Australia. And they need a lot of data and a lot of repetition to do that. And the best way to collect that isn't to hire speech actors, obviously, because they know how to speak into a microphone. They need to have someone who, and that might be why you're thinking it's after something where you've been more vocal, or where you are having a more emotional conversation. It's not just because you're remembering. It might be because they're more apt to record that at that time, because they're trying to learn through emotion and voices. Billions of dollars.
How do we as individuals push back a little bit and become influencers ourselves?
So I would say that's like that pushback, and that's the resistance, I guess, and that's kind of what my ideology is we try to take smaller companies and grow them organically. And it's through the use of analytics. It's through giving them that information about what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, so that on a very small budget, they can make those necessary corrections. But in addition to that, it's pushing your policymakers to protect your data. Tracking IDs shouldn't be allowed to be exchanged. Tracking information was originally developed to help enrich your experience, not to sell products. And there was one other thing I had to say about that, but I was going to say they're spending that much money because it works as well, and because they can then sell that data that they accumulate, and they put that money into to lobbyists and to other folks who use it to disseminate information. So they're making money on both ends, really.
Do you now actually read the terms and service before you click on it?
Basically, anytime you click terms and service, you've kind of given the devil your soul. And that's really what you have to feel like now, especially with your phone. That's your camera, it's your voice recorder, it's everything. There's no app, there's no anything that's asking for permissions that isn't going to ask for everything. Google is a little bit more ethical, and they're making so much money, so why wouldn't they be? Because they control SEO. But they understand that it can't all be dominated by money, and they also understand that the consumer doesn't want it to be completely manipulated by money. That's why, statistically speaking, and I don't know if you realize you do this, you don't look at those first 3 paid ads. When you search for something on Google, you start reading those search results under the paid advertisements. Everybody does. And they realized that about 5 years ago. And Google's most important priority, is to get you to the web page you are looking for, or the product or service you're looking for, as quickly as possible. So if a company can pay like $2 billion or something to try to make something show up, that doesn't necessarily mean that they can steal that audience or that position on a web search from a company that just is better or is the better result. And that's why it's so important to let these small business owners online know that they're doing well. Because even if someone never reads that review, it's getting counted into the algorithm.
And that'll actually bump them up. To
It really does. And did you have one more? Do you again?
Well, not that I want to get free advice, but I kind of wanted free advice. As a small business, what can a small business do to compete against? So one thing I love about online is that in some ways not, it's a level playing field. But how can a small business compete against the larger businesses?
Step away from ad buys. You're not going to win in an ad buy war. You're going to spend a lot of money. You're going to get traffic that isn't looking for what you're looking for, because Google's just trying to make money as well at that point. And you're never going to be able to spend as much as they are. You know, when it really comes down to it, at that time where you really need it to be seen, they're spending 450 times as much as you are for something that has nothing to do with your company, probably. They just own it that way. And focus on the other 2 parts of the equation. Focus on your engagement, focus on being consistent with your posts, with your website, with your sales, and interact. You know, try to interact with people on a one-on-one basis. Share testimonial videos, reviews, pictures of your product, things that, you know, are more engageable, that people are going to like or, you know, want to comment back on. Pose a question. It doesn't necessarily have to be relevant to the product you're selling. And you'll also kind of notice that Google is smart, because they have all the servers and all of the data that everyone else is looking at, and they know that we like small businesses. So you get a bump because they know you're not getting as many opportunities to be seen. And that gives you a little bit of an inflation. And really, with organic marketing, you're able to take that boost and you're able to take that helping hand from them and run with it. And I think over the last 2 years and into the next 5 years, especially after this election and how that's changed people's understanding of data privacy, we're going to start to see SEO results really change. You're going to Google something and you're going to see more local businesses show up first, because people are spending that time. That's kind of the last thing, is that it takes time as a business owner. I would say if you started today, it would be 6 months before you really have cultivated an audience that engages with you at a place where you're going to start seeing marketed improvement and where you are visible online, and how close to the top, which is what everyone wants to be, is number 1 on that first search page, how close that is. Yes?
So, analytics is like me going to a specific business
Here, I'm sorry, could you speak over to the mic? Either way, I know, I think I'm speaking myself hoarse too. It's a little late tonight.
So analytics is when I go to a specific business's website and they can see directly like how I'm interacting with it. And then Facebook, like the bad cholesterol is like them tracking what I do
So
ever.
it's not based on a platform, which is easy to think it is because Facebook tends to show us more of those bad cholesterol ads. But Facebook has good analytics for business owners, and then they also are the partakers in the in-market research and doing the tracking IDs.
Okay.
Google does both as well too, and they are smart enough to all communicate. So you get kind of a business ID with Google, and you insert that into all the different profiles you have when you run a business, and it collects all the analytics into one place. Whereas tracking IDs, because the data really isn't meant to be accumulated that way, kind of becomes a different marketing deal where people collect these profiles and then they sell that information en masse.
Okay. Thank you.
Did that answer, or was I not hitting on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Unsubscribe to Unroll Me is a product I like to use. I recommend it to a lot of my vendors, especially people who are doing brand renovations. It helps organize emails, but basically they can see something you've subscribed to because it's coming into your inbox. It's not going into your spam box, so you must have given them something to get it in there. And it uses that and a lot of other people who subscribe to it to kind of research your mail really quick. It scans it. It gives you a report when you hit one button, and it unsubscribes you from everything. There are some emails that have smarted their way around this, but predominantly people don't want to continue to send you emails if you don't want them. That's negative engagement, especially if you've told them you don't want them. You know, at that point, then they're becoming a defiant actor in their marketing conversation with you, and that's never an experience we want someone to have. Well, thank you for letting me talk your ear off, and we'll post those links to do things specifically for those videos online as well for y'all.